Boutique Podcast is a show for mature audiences only. Listen at your own peril. Landing now at the Piece of Junk Studios in Lexington, Kentucky, a cornucopia of nerd culture with news and reviews from the genres of comics, science fiction, horror, gaming, and even a little cosplay. It's the Geeks Boutique Podcast. And now, here's your hosts, JD, Zach, and Jason!
Welcome back, everybody, for episode number 3 of the Geeks Boutique Podcast. This issue, we proudly display our comic book dick pics of the month and discuss Wonder Woman's complicated past and beyond the pages. In the Mausoleum, we briefly review and strongly recommend Through the Woods by Emily Carroll and Kentucky Kaiju by Apex Books. In Hillbillies on Film, we will discuss and critique the new Wonder Woman film. This month's Imperial Security Bureau breaks down the stalwart B-Wing class frigate, and we tell you how to get the most out of this venerable ship. Most importantly, we have our second ever guest host here on Geeks Boutique, Mr. Preece. Chris recently published an educational comic entitled CHEMystery, and he's here to tell us all about it. As always, we welcome our in-studio guests to chime in at will during all of our segments. So everybody say hello to Chris. All this and more on this month's Geeks Boutique. Okay, some quick announcements. I think as part of our mission statement here on the show, hopefully everybody agrees, we really like to try to advertise the local shops, local artists, local talent we have here in the Central Kentucky area. So in support of some of the shops, I wanted to mention that if you're a Games Workshop fan, you should check out the Battle Forge. They run monthly tournaments for both Warhammer Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40K. And yes, they have started doing 8th edition tournaments for 40K, even though it came out, a week ago?
Something roughly like that. I mean, I still got stuff in the box that I haven't even put together yet.
Yeah, I think June the 17th it hit shops, but they're ready to go for 8th edition. These events happen every month, but the points are often different, so please follow and like their Facebook page to get all the details. The 40K tournament runs every first Saturday of the month. The Age of Sigmar is every fourth Saturday. Zach and I have both played there many times. A really good group of guys down there, really friendly atmosphere, kid-friendly too, beautiful tables, really good shop. They are located at 1777 Alexandria Drive here in Lexington. If you are a Magic the Gathering player, you should check out D20 Hobbies. On July 7th, well, that whole weekend, July 7th, 8th, and 9th, they're having their pre-release events for the Hour of Devastation. This is the second part of the Amonkhet block. July 7th, they have a midnight pre-release event, but stick around all weekend. They'll have more pre-releases and tournaments that whole weekend. D20 is on Southland Drive, which is right in the middle of Lexington, just off Nicholasville Drive. Again, if you need more information, follow them on Facebook or swing by the shop. And be sure to tell James that the Geeks Boutique sent you.
I have to say, too, as far as, with D20, James has been a fantastic host with everything that we've tried to do here, and he's definitely want to set up and kind of expand the community and make a great place for everybody to come and play.
Absolutely.
Good friend of the show.
Great guy.
Also, off the cuff, I'll mention July 9th, the Sunday evening at 7, they're having open playing for X-Wing miniatures game, which we're all a big fan of, too. So if you get a chance, head down there and check that scene out as well. They're trying to get their store to have more of an X-Wing base, and we're trying to help them out with that. So there'll be some prizes, store credit prizes, $20 for first place, I think. So
all right.
Head on down.
All right. Well, we're all really excited because we're starting to get listener questions, and so we have some listener questions of the month. We have a few in-depth questions from some devoted fans, one being Denny Hayes from Lexington, Kentucky. He wanted to know what we thought of the treatment of the new Wonder Woman film, and basically there were early stories and questions as to why the advertising blitz kicked in so late and so close to the release date. And some have speculated on why the release was not as large, fewer cinemas and screens than other big superhero films. What's behind this? He wanted to know, do we think that this is market-driven or discrimination of some sort?
I'll jump in. I'm going to fall on the side of it's a marketing thing. Exactly a month before Wonder Woman release was Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I don't think they bothered wasting a lot of marketing money during that time because Guardians is getting all the attention. It's an established hit. The film was going to be a huge blockbuster success. Anything they put out previous to that was just going to kind of get lost in all the white noise. And then you saw as soon as Guardian launched and had their big weekend, here came all the Wonder Woman stuff. I think it's just smart marketing.
And I'm very much inclined to agree with Jason on that because anytime they do a marketing campaign, that's going to increase their overhead for the movie, and it's going to narrow their profit margins. And if you look at it chronically, the Marvel movies have way outshone the DC movies in terms of the box office grossing. So I think it's, if it was a limited release, they're just trying to market to places where they're going to have the maximum impact so that they can maximize their profits.
Yeah.
The almighty dollar is always going to drive the Hollywood machine, regardless of what anybody says about social activism or changes they want to make through Hollywood. It all boils down to what makes money and what doesn't.
Right. I mean, it's a movie about a powerful woman. So I think the argument that it's discrimination that's kind of ridiculous.
I saw another article. It was questioning the fact that I always get her name wrong. Gal Gadot. Do you pronounce the T?
I think it's Godot.
Godot? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it looks like Godot to me.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that. Anyway.
Former Israeli soldier.
Yeah, which was why it was banned in some Middle Eastern countries. But anyway, Gal made, I think, a paycheck of $300,000 for the movie.
Wow. That's not what I thought she would have made. I thought it would have probably been in the millions.
But this was also like her first major appearance, was it not? As in terms of being in a movie, as far as I'm aware, like this was her first like big main character. Correct? I mean, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not 100% certain on that.
I mean, she was in Batman versus Superman.
Well,
I could see her getting
true.
$300,000 for that, but I would have figured she'd be in the millions for that.
As a point of reference, that's almost exactly the same that Chris Evans got for the first Captain America and Chris Hemsworth got for the first Thor.
Really?
wow.
Yep.
That's kind of mind blowing. I know. I
was trying to trap you guys there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I saw some of the articles that were complaining that she didn't get paid nearly as much as Robert Downey Jr. for like the third Iron Man movie.
Yeah, but he's been around for ages.
Exactly. I was like,
Well,
these are apples and oranges in terms of market value.
He's getting back end on all that stuff now, too.
Oh yeah, absolutely he is.
Yeah, I expect for Wonder Woman 2, she'll make a shit ton more than $300,000.
Well, I'd hope she'd make more than that for the Justice League.
Oh yeah,
movie.
Justice League too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Agreed.
All right. Well, we got a second email from a listener, Tony Johnston of Houston, Texas. And I'm going to read some of the comments that Tony said. I might paraphrase a little bit.
Deep in the heart of Texas. I got to troll Texas a little.
A little bit, yeah.
Big old dumb Texas.
Yeah.
I love Texas.
All right. So Tony says, loved our episodes 1 and 2. So now you guys feel bad for making fun of Texas. He loved our first 2 episodes. He said he went to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2 based solely on the Geeks Boutique review.
Oh, Marvel Studios, please make the checkout too of the Geeks Boutique podcast.
Positively.
Absolutely. His comment on that is, what were we smoking? Best movie ever? Really? He said it was very good and entertaining, but nowhere near the quality of several other recent comic book movies. Off the top of his head, Logan, Avengers, Civil War were all much better comic book movies than either The Guardians or Deadpool, for that matter. He says, serious topics while being funny, great action and fight scenes, lots of cool characters, great iconic villains and storylines. Guardians had way too much slapstick comedy, he says, while Baby Groot was almost as annoying as Jar Jar Binks. He rated the movie a 4 out of 5 or an 8 out of 10 tops. I'm surprised at that rating because it sounds like you didn't like it that much.
I mean, if you make a Jar Jar Binks reference to anything, that's fighting words.
Yeah. He asked us to get off the bluegrass bourbon and smell the roses with regard to our reviews about Guardians of the Galaxy. But he did have some other things that he wanted to kind of get off his chest and kind of ask us about. He wanted to know, since there's a conspicuous absence of major movie featuring Marvel's first mutant and the first ever comic book anti-hero, the underappreciated and uber-powerful Prince Namor the Submariner. He's beat up the Thing, he says, and all 4 of the Fantastic Four, for that matter, as well as the Hulk. He was an Avenger, a Defender, an Invader, etc., and he's done it all. Why no movie for Namor? Why doesn't he get any love from Marvel? No respect. Even the frickin' Silver Surfer and Black Panther have been in movies. Tony goes on to say that Namor is supposedly going to be featured in a few of the issues of Marvel comic book series Secret Empire, but he would really love to know what we think about why Namor, hasn't been featured yet in a movie. And he'd also like us to talk more about war, board, and role-playing games as well.
Okay.
So what do you guys think about what Tony has to say in general?
Well, I guess I'll lead this because I definitely in that episode was champion Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I agree. I give it like I've seen it twice now. I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5. For some reason, I guess it just didn't stand up as well to a second watch. because I guess you know where all the surprises are going to be, you know where the jokes are going to be, and I think seeing it the first time, it did kind of have that new shiny aspect to it.
Sure.
And if we take Deadpool out of the equation, I think what it did differently than all the other superhero movies that have just been released recently was it presented a somewhat serious topic. You've got a supervillain that wants to destroy the entire universe, but it did incorporate a lot of slapstick. Whereas you've had Logan, who was a very dark, very serious, very gritty movie, and I think that's what I enjoyed. I enjoyed the lightheartedness of it.
Absolutely. It was like a roller coaster.
Exactly.
I really had a lot of fun watching this movie. I didn't take it too seriously. And, I mean, on a fun element, I give it a 10 out of 10.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, it was a lot of fun. Of course, I did have a lot of beer that night as well.
I may or may not have partaken as well ever so slightly, so that may have skewed the results. And I will say for the official record, Deadpool will trump it for me. On the rewatch, because I've seen Deadpool, as you called me out on, a good 20 or 30 times now. So, and it's always stood up to the rewatch.
He's currently wearing a Deadpool T-shirt. Not that you can see that at home.
Yeah,
But.
Right.
He's not wrong. I am, and it's subconscious. It's just imprinted on me. But yeah, I think Deadpool will take back my number one slot from a superhero movies. But yeah, I mean, it's still good, but definitely not the rewatch. Just it didn't have as much oomph to it for me.
I will side with our Texan friend a bit on the Baby Groot part. I'd had my fill when he danced his way through the credits. After that, I was done.
Because you're a humorless bastard. That's
now
why.
that's not nearly as bad as Jar Jar Binks. I mean, come on, that's like the worst character in cinema history.
Right.
But yeah, I got tired of Baby Groot after a couple minutes.
All right. So what about Neymar, guys? What about Neymar? Why hasn't Marvel addressed this yet? Is it because they're looking for maybe a Fantastic Four vehicle to do so?
Maybe so. Our guest host, Chris, mentioned before the show that we should look into like who has the rights for that, because another company, we weren't sure if it was Fox or Sony, still maintains the Fantastic Four rights, and that's probably in the package deal. So maybe they just can't do it right now.
Yeah. I think it is Fox, but wouldn't that be great though if Marvel could work a deal with Fox like they did with Sony on Spider-Man, and and actually do a Fantastic Four movie, and Neymar could be the anti-hero, or the antagonist in that movie. I think that'd be great.
I think in order, though, to see a Namor movie, we're going to actually have to see a successful Fantastic Four movie. Because, I mean, like you said, as such a big-name character as that is, if they're going to incorporate that in there, I think they really need to get a basic Fantastic Four movie right to begin with.
Yeah. Well, I think I like what John's saying about have him, the enemy, in that movie. I mean, I can see the legions marching up out of the sea. That'd be a cool scene.
Sure.
Oh, we're all screwed. Here comes Atlantis.
Right. And they could do the whole love triangle thing between him and Sue and Reed Richards. So
seaweed is a natural aphrodisiac.
So, like, I'm not super familiar with Namor. Like, what are some of his powers? I mean, I know he's like, what is it? Like, is it the king of Atlantis, or is he?
He's he's the king of Atlantis. He's super strong.
First mutant, right?
Right. He's got little wings on his ankles, which
He can
allow
fly.
him to fly.
Why ain't that precious?
He's just super strong, invulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pointy ears.
Yeah. He's like the
Fish scale speedos.
Yeah. He's like a badass Spock underwater.
I was going to say, Spock was pretty badass, minus the underwater part.
Right.
But
And of course, he's got the hots for Sue Storm.
Well, who
Or
doesn't?
Sue
though?
Richards. So.
Yeah, I mentioned also that if you read the first Civil War series, the original one, he's the one who basically puts an end to the hostilities. He comes up from Atlantis with the armies and just puts the superheroes in their corners. So there's a huge, I see what Tony's saying. There's a huge almost like power vacuum in the Marvel universe because Namor's not there.
Right.
This other power that kind of has its own agenda.
Right. I don't think they need to do a singular movie about Neymar like they have with like Doctor Strange and with Ant-Man. I don't
think he's just known now to carry it.
Right. I think he needs to be in a vehicle like the Fantastic Four, without a doubt. All right. So we did have a third letter from.
Yeah, Zach, you got that one?
Yeah, it's from Jarrett Moreland, and he's from Iowa.
We are spanning the country tonight.
We are.
I'll say, we're sea to shining sea at this point. Jared actually wrote in a really great question. He, said he was a big fan of it, but he definitely kind of called us out on some of the points we made, which is, what we like. We want somebody that will have a good dialogue with us. So
you are welcome to write in and tell Zach he's wrong as much as you like.
Absolutely.
And I will be
behind
self-assured
that
that I am right 100% of the time. Ignorance is bliss, my friends. So one of his first, he had actually two main challenges, and the first one was our argument about the diversity for the sake of diversity, and how I describe that as pandering. And he's saying that art should be a kind of a social medium as far as our socio-political climates, He wrote in there, he said, the first is the idea that any attempt to change decades-old characters or create relevant stories is labeled as pandering. And he said it doesn't always mean that the changes are well done, but it shouldn't be put down on principle. And he said that the art and pop culture is things that we should connect to and represent modern day. And to that, I agree with a lot of what he said there, but I think what Marvel currently is doing is pandering. Instead of writing these great new characters that would represent different groups or marginalized groups to where they're having their own backstories, their own adventures, their own characters and everything, they're taking established characters and stripping them down and kind of ramming through the changes that they want to see. Yeah. And, like we brought up in our episode there, why was Sif not chosen to take on the mantle of Thor? You can have your cake and eat it too, but they're just completely ramming in something completely different. What do you guys think on that?
Well, wouldn't it be better to see how Captain America or any other mainstream Marvel character would react to a new character that does represent, a diversity, people of color, women, wouldn't it be better to see how established characters react to that rather than, like you said, to strip down those characters and pander to that theme? I'd rather see how the Captain America would respond to those new characters.
Well, and that was something else too that kind of came to me with this question, was that we've already established it within the Marvel universe. There is the multiverse where there's all these different parallel universes and storylines and characters going on. And one of the things that if they want to have all this diversity, there's no reason in alternate storylines or alternate universes that you can't have these characters as this different diversity or persona that they've applied to it, which in turn allows you to have your base character, but also greatly increase your roster. And they could even have crossover events, because there's multiple events within the Marvel universe to where these different parallel universes intersect. So it's going to let them kind of have their cake and eat it too, because not only are they getting to tell these diverse stories and they're getting to reach out to different groups, they're also keeping the source material, and you could even have like crossover events. It was something that kind of came to me with that, and I'm not sure why they haven't explored anything like that really.
I think it's a mixed bag. I think some stories they have handled well, and some stories they haven't. I think when they just kind of copy line from quotes from the movements, the different movements, and just put that in a comic book, that's very heavy-handed, and people don't respond to that well. I have no problem with the comics industry as a whole as being a tool of progressivism. They always have been. It's about 3 years ago, Bill Roseman, who I think is the head of marketing and PR for Marvel, came to UK, University of Kentucky, where I work, and gave a talk, and I went to see him. And he said that we see ourselves as a vehicle, as a tool of not progressivism, but social issues. They see themselves as a force for good in the world. They want to do stories that help out, all these things we're talking about. And I'm totally fine with that. Like I said, I think they've always done that. And they've always had diversity. They've always taken on social issues, even if it was not cool to do so. I think it's just the modern way they're handling it isn't resonating with the readership very well.
There is too some other criticism out there that it isn't necessarily the diversity and the new things that they're trying with set characters, in that's what's driving away readers or reducing their sales. I saw something just the other day. There was an article about the fact that basically that comic books and the industry and the format in which way comics are made, they're pricing themselves out of their readership rather than losing their readership based on this.
That's why I just buy trades.
Right.
And I
can't drop $4 an issue.
I mean, it's really expensive to buy comic books, and and the argument was that it wasn't necessarily diversity, but it was the pricing. And then the person went on to make the comment as well that is Marvel really, really, really concerned with bringing in new readers, by their pricing structure.
Yeah, I mean, it is, like you just said, Jason, comics kind of are prohibitively priced. I mean, if I'm going to buy comics, I'm going to wait till the trades come out. Yeah. That's why, like with The Walking Dead, for example, I buy the big omnibus that's got like 90-something issues in it. So it's like for the price of like $30. Whereas if you were to price out each individual issue, it's going to be a ton of money. And Chris just kind of handed me this note here about the Ultimates line for Marvel. So, I mean, I guess to a degree, we do have our alternate characters there showing up. But no, I think those are some really great points you bring up there, guys.
Well, again, I'd say if it's handled well, when it's organic to the story, nobody bats an eye. When Sam Wilson takes over for being Captain America, That's awesome. If there was somebody other than Steve Rogers to be Captain America, I would want it to be Sam Wilson.
Well, hell yeah, that's been his buddy. That's been palling around. I mean, he was kind of a fan of Captain America to begin with. That's how he started out. And then
he's been his almost like sidekick for a long time. And that's just organic to the story. He's already there. He takes over. Nobody balks at that for a moment.
Well, I mean,
if just all of a sudden tomorrow Steve Rogers turned up a black guy, we'd be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's that forced change that doesn't really resonate well with people. I feel like the other thing that he brought up that was a pretty interesting point was about the Captain America comments, and I agree. He said that was a little bit of a Twitch reaction to label classifying him as the agent of Hydra as pandering. And one of the things that he brought up was the readers knowing best kind of thing is a load of crap for the most part. And that people, and I do agree, because that's what makes the story interesting, is the twists and turns. And he's telling everybody that's kind of upset about this to ride it out. The writers have been writing Captain America for a long time. They know what's going on. They're not just gonna capsize this character, no pun intended. And but the one thing that I really liked that he said was that was using Captain America kind of as an epitaph for America. And one of the things that I mentioned was my first image of Captain America was him punching Hitler in the face. And you think about that time in American history, ultranationalism was sweeping the country, and it was great patriotism as far as everybody was focused on the war efforts. And because of that, a lot of social issues, sexism, racism, those things, poverty and different class disputes really got pushed under the rug and put by the wayside due to World War II and those time periods that focused on the war. Whereas now in modern day, we're a lot more critical of our socio-political institutions. And that being the case, if we're gonna break down the American ideology, if they're using Captain America to tell that kind of story, I think it's kind of an interesting take on it, that maybe America's not as great as we portrayed it to be. It's kind of what he was saying, and I'm kind of inclined to agree with that, as far as using comics to tell that story, that maybe the entire time there was always these kind of seeds of evil that we just kind of glossed over because that's not what we wanted to see. But if we take a look kind of through the cracks, we see that things aren't as great.
See, my argument would be that we need Captain America fighting those evils, not being them.
Agreed.
To quote Dr. Marksberry, Captain America has always been a fascist.
Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Okay, we've got another segment here. Scott Dills, Scott Don't Fuck Around Dills, is going to do a little bit of a Star Wars segment for us here. We've got a special sit-in guest just for this segment, old high school buddy of mine, Dan Preece from Inez, Kentucky. Hey, Dan.
How you doing?
All right, man.
What's up, Dan?
Glad to be here.
All right. So, Scott, take it away, man.
Hey, this is Scott D.F. Dills here, and the GB guys that asked me to come in and do a little commentary on my favorite love, which is Star Wars. So we're going to talk a little bit about the character Mara Jade. She's a very well-known character. She made her debut in Heir to the Empire, which was published in 1991. It's a Timothy Zahn novel, and those of us who are big into Star Wars, you know that Timothy Zahn is a very prolific writer in the Star Wars expanded universe genre. Mara Jade is in the mythos known as the Emperor's Hand, so she's a bad guy. Originally, she was working covertly for the Emperor on all these little side projects that he secretly wanted done. That was the backstory that Timothy Zahn made in Heir to the Empire. In 1997, Star Wars Insider classified Mara in the top 20 non-movie characters. So she's a very popular character. She has action figures, trading cards, miniature game figurines, stat blocks in the Star Wars role-playing game. She's been featured in countless novels and periodicals. And what I noticed today when I was doing a little research, Wikipedia even lists her as Mara Jade Skywalker. So she's got the Skywalker name, the surname. And the reason we're bringing her up today is because, there's all this excitement going around with the new Star Wars films that have been coming out. So we've got, Episode 7 came out recently, and now, we're all waiting for Episode 8 to come out. And so, it's kind of up in the air. What kind of characters are we going to see as this trilogy progresses? I would personally really like to see Mara Jade, and I think that Lucasfilm would really be remiss not to include her on film, And the reason is I've been to a lot of Star Wars conventions, and I've seen the fandom. She's totally a fan favorite. I mean, all the girls and the guys, they love her. The girls want to dress up like her. If you go to, like I went to the Orlando convention in 2012, the Star Wars Celebration, a lot of the girls were in Mara Jade costumes. And just like Grand Admiral Thrawn, who is also another character from Heir to the Empire, that book, in terms of the expanded universe, is universally known as probably the most important book in the Star Wars expanded universe. And the reason being is that in 1991, whenever it came out, the Star Wars fandom was kind of in a little bit of a lull, because it hadn't been since 1983 that we had Return of the Jedi, and just some of the energy and the momentum was getting lost. And so Lucasfilm contracted with Timothy Zahn to kind of reinvigorate Star Wars, and he did. And whenever he did that, that started a tremendous amount of new expanded universe material. So he was kind of the predecessor in that regard. And, Mara Jade and Grand Admiral Thrawn are very important characters to that whole new concept. The other thing is, taking into consideration Episode 7, what we know now, we don't know a lot about Episode 8 yet, but what we know with Episode 7 is it happens so far in the future that, I kind of really believe that the Thrawn trilogy, as it has been traditionally called, it doesn't really necessarily conflict with the current film canon. So, in my opinion, I still feel that those characters, even maybe not to their totality, but I believe that a lot of those characters can still be incorporated into those new films. And that's really what I want to see. I would like to see Mara Jade make an appearance. Yes, thank you.
Scott is now currently fucking around over there on the mic, not living up to his name.
Well, for starters, I thought all these Jedi guys were celibate, or they were supposed to be celibate.
No, but that's the prequel.
That's in the
by the time the sequels, the original trilogy comes around, they probably have a different idea.
And Luke Skywalker, he's kind of, he's filling it out. I mean, he wasn't really left with a whole lot of information. Yoda finished his training, and it was kind of off the cuff. Luke really wasn't there in kind of the traditional setting that the Jedi were in the past. It was more like, hey, get over here, I need to show you this. And, so he's kind of fumbling his way through in the mythos anyway to try to even create the Jedi Order, which, he's kind of doing that from the ground up. And so in the Thrawn trilogy, when he met Mara, she actually originally wanted to kill him because she was working for the Emperor. And it's kind of, I like how Timothy Zahn actually wrote the character, because it's kind of in a fuzzy gray area. She is a dark side user, but I think she kind of doesn't realize it. Like, I think she thinks this is the way to go. And the Emperor was actually this fatherly man who raised me, and, I did work for him, and this SOB Luke Skywalker, killed him. And so she was on the hunt for him. And then through the evolution of the story, they eventually,
So Yoda basically died before he could give him like the Jedi equivalent, like the birds and the bees talk and everything. Like, glossed over that little part of like, where little Jedi come from and everything.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why his father failed, lack of focus and being focused on the other sex, right?
Yeah. And
maybe that's why Luke's imperfect, and maybe, that goes to your argument that Luke actually turned evil in Revenge of the Jedi, right? Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, for a split second. For a split second, it was right. It was when he was fighting Vader, and we talked about this in the first episode. We had watched the trailer for Episode 8, and Luke said, it's time for the Jedi to end, or he said something to that effect, and you're like, well, what does that mean? So we were talking about how in Return of the Jedi, when he's fighting Vader, he actually chops Vader's arm off and has him on the floor and almost kills Vader, and almost like fulfills the role that the Emperor had been wanting him to do from the start. In fact, even part of that whole sequence, the Emperor's sitting there and he's got the lightsaber on his chair and he's tempting Luke, and Luke finally, he draws it. So there's like some dark side elements there that are definitely happening. But I like the whole ambiguity of the Force, and it's not such a bifurcated sort of concept. And I like them playing around with the gray areas like that.
So perhaps sexual frustration can also lead to the dark side.
Absolutely, that is the dark side.
I think
definitively.
It is the dark side.
I have been led down the dark side.
I don't know. Do we got a counter opinion? Because this is my little commentary. And
well, what do you think about the expansion of characters like this, and with Disney and adding to the canon? I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Well, he makes a great case for putting Mary Jade in. But also, since she is a conflicted character, I think Disney pretty much stole what space she would use with Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is the guy that's going through the conflict between his familial love, his dad and all this, and turning to the dark side. She would be a repeat character to a point.
Yeah.
But since, like he says, she's so far in the past, maybe you could tie that in. That would be Luke's experience with somebody who is dancing both sides of the fence. And maybe if they injected that and that went bad, maybe that's why he didn't want to continue teaching Kylo Ren, because that tells him he will fail.
Bring her in kind of like a flashback sequence kind of thing.
That's a great perspective. And maybe like even she's dead. She could be dead in episode 8, and he's thinking of her memory.
Yeah, and that rock could be a headstone.
Well, how about this too?
That he's standing next to.
Yeah, that's great. But what about this? I mean, we're getting all these spin-offs, like these standalone movies now, right? Young Han Solo. We get to see the story of Jyn Erso, right? Maybe a standalone movie featuring Mara Jade.
I think we need to crack down on how much we talk about this, because I think if Disney's listening in, we're writing movies for them, because this is some quality shit right here.
Please listen in, Disney, for the love of God.
We need all the help we can get. Get us out of Scott's living room.
There was I'm a little discombobulated because I'm not used to being in the spotlight in the whole podcast thing. You guys do such a great job, and so I'm getting a little lost in my words. But one of the things that you all had addressed when we watched the trailer for episode 8 was, the fact that Skywalker said it's time for the Jedi to end. And that was a good question, JD. You're talking about, well, shouldn't they be celibate? And so maybe Luke is thinking about the Jedi as an order. It's kind of obsolete. Maybe it is time for something new.
Maybe.
Luke discovered girls, started getting hair in weird places, started developing feelings, and now he's gone full dark side.
Bro, well, all I'm saying is look what happened to his father when he got him involved with the other sex.
Rolled around in the field on an alien planet one time, and suddenly you're killing younglings.
Maybe if they'd allowed it, he would have been too busy to kill younglings.
Yeah. And
Touche,
is this
good
a
sir,
comment
touche.
on the ancient Catholic Church? Is this a comment on that?
I think it is.
It might
absolutely is.
They have evolved and allowed.
Yoda could become an apologist as a ghost.
I mean, the Emperor kind of is dark side Uncle Touchy. I mean, let's be entirely honest here. He does have that creepy.
Oh yes, very creepy.
Do it.
Yeah.
I am going to close this out real quick, just with a few problems that I thought of. Of course, Dan brought up a very good point, but just some of the things I thought of was she is in similar age to Luke, so we would get kind of an advanced age Mara in episode 8, so she wouldn't be as hot looking, basically.
God, that kind of makes me just want to go iron something, take some wrinkles out of the world.
That's sexist. You're headed toward the dark side.
Oh, okay. Is that too much? Did I cross the line there?
No, I think the original Star Wars base is old enough to enjoy a few MILFs, maybe a few GILFs.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other disappointing thing to me is I love Scarlett Johansson, and she's already the Black Widow, so that's kind of disappointing to me.
It's 2017. She can be whatever she wants to be, Scott.
Yeah.
She's
a
in
sexist bastard.
She's in tons of different properties.
Can I pick Catherine Zeta-Jones?
That'd be good. Yeah, there you go.
Pick.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say is, where the fuck is Lando?
Oh, I made a fool of myself.
He's doing some Colt 45s.
In an election convention, because I thought he was in. This was before the movie's made, and before I'd seen that picture showing everybody in the reading room that he's not in. And I said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're back. I love the characters. Can't wait till you guys run around again." And he just looks at me like, "Yeah, guy." Now I know why he looked at me so weird. He wasn't in it.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And I heard one of the fans, because I got his autograph not too long ago too, and one of the fans asked him, and he said, well, I wish they would. I wish they would invite me into it. And I'm kind of like, why isn't he? I know they had so many introductions to do in episode 7. It probably, they would have had to shoehorn him in. But in 8, has anybody seen him on the credits? I mean, I would think they would be able to open a slot for him to, fill him in somehow.
There's an argument that Lando is the coolest guy in the universe, maybe besides Boba Fett.
Plot twist.
I mean, he is really the way that Alex Guinness and some other actors gave credibility to episode 4, A New Hope. Billy D. Williams. I don't think anyone of a lesser stature could have played that character and made him real. I mean, Billy D. Williams is cool. He was cool before Star Wars. He didn't need Star Wars, just like Alex Guinness did. But that character is so cool because he could play the sneaky, sly guy, and then also the friend guy and the romantic thing. He's that good of an actor, which makes the character that good. And to leave him out, it's a great disappointment. Let's put it that way.
I want to see the plot twist of he's Snoke. Yeah, that's the plot twist. He's Snoke. Calling it now.
Okay, so if you'd like to contact us with any of your questions, comments, please write to us at any of our social media outlets. Send us a message on Facebook, write to our Gmail account. However you want to get in touch with us, we'll take it. If we like what we hear, we'll choose your question and we'll answer it on the show, just like you've heard before.
Psst. Hey, buddy. Come over here. Comic Book Dicks is our comic segment. It's the place where we each dive into our local comic shop and try to sleuth out a good read amongst the rubbish. We might be behind the 8 ball, so you better holster your piece gumshoe. We've got work to do.
All right, you handsome dicks. What are you reading this month? Chris, let's start with you, guest host extraordinaire.
So one of the newer comics out that I'm really enjoying is Hillbillies by Eric Powell. This is actually my first introduction to Eric Powell. When I started looking into him, he's won a bunch of Eisner Awards. And the thing that really stands out to me about Hillbillies is it's so authentic. His artwork, which is black and white with some shading, is beautiful, and the stories are just amazing. They're about this one particular sort of outcast person who goes around killing witches and evildoers, and the stories are almost kind of one-offs each time, but they build on each other a little bit. And it has his artwork with his storytelling. It has so much emotion and involves so much. It's really grabbed me.
I'm not familiar with, what's the setting? Is it set in Appalachia or?
I think it is set in Appalachia. There's certainly a lot of hills. I can't remember the exact location.
And a lot of billies.
But there's definitely some banjo playing and some overalls and nice. Whatnot. But it's more like creepy folk tales.
Oh, good.
Which I'm typically not much for horror comics. I wouldn't necessarily classify this as horror, but it definitely has a creepy vibe to it at certain points, and it's really good, really good.
As we learned from our friend Tom Marksberry, horror is a very open genre, so maybe it is.
Absolutely, and I mean, if it creates dread in your heart when you read it, then that's what it is. It's horror.
I got some creepy folk tales coming up a little bit later. But speaking of hillbillies, John here turned me on to Southern Bastards. I'm more of a superhero kind of guy, so that's the type of stuff I gravitate towards. But I thought, well, he took the time to bring it and let me borrow it, so I'll read it. So I'm sure you guys know it already. It's been pretty popular. Creative team and Jason Aaron and Jason Latour. I really enjoyed it. Once I started reading it, just on a whim, I sat down and just finished the whole thing. I love the fact it's set in Alabama. I love the fact that the crime lord is also the head football coach.
Yeah.
That cracked me up.
Bear Bryant.
All his lackeys, they call him Coach Boss. What you doing, Coach Boss? What do you want us to do, Coach Boss? And
I love the way they ride around in the pickup truck, the team members do.
Yeah.
With the, don't they have some sort of headgear on?
Well, sometimes they have their helmets on, their football helmets. That cracked me up. He's almost like a god in that little town. And if you've ever been to Alabama, God forbid, that's the way it is. Anyway,
dude, that's how it is in some of the towns here in Kentucky. What are you talking about?
Absolutely.
Maybe basketball.
No, football rules supreme as far as some of the high schools and towns in Kentucky. It's
all
football.
Those uppity Louisville schools that win all the time, though.
Yeah, uppity Louisville.
But anyway,
not from around here, are you?
The story focuses around the character Earl Tubb, who comes. I think he moved to the big city of Birmingham. He's come back after his father's passed away to kind of take care of the family business. Of course, he gets involved in the same old shit. His dad was like the sheriff.
Yeah.
and dispense justice with a big stick.
Hell yeah.
So that's my one criticism. It's a little bit derivative of Walking Tall.
Yes.
But it was really fun. I guess when his dad died, somebody had planted a tree on his grave, and it's grown up in this big old tough gnarly tree. And at one point, Earl goes out and tries to chop it down. He spends all night whacking on this thing, and he doesn't make any progress. Maybe knocks the bark off of it. And I think that's really good symbolism for the way like his father's legacy is not only defined a lot of his life, and he's tried to escape that by leaving for the big city, but now he's back and it follows him around. And of course, sure enough, by the end of the trade paperback, he's in the same old crap his daddy was involved in.
Right.
I really got a kick out of it. I might go get volume 2.
It's pretty damn good.
It is.
Yeah.
John, what you got for us?
Well, today I'm going to talk about my undying, adoring love of Walt Simonson.
Bromance.
Yes, I have a complete bromance on Walt Simonson. Walt Simonson, of course, has a new creator-owned work. Well, it's not new. It's been coming out for a while. And what I'm talking about here is a trade paperback that gathers up the first 6 issues of Ragnarok. Ragnarok, again, is a creator-owned series, and Walt Simonson is the author and the artist. Laura Martin is on color, and John Workman, an old Marvel collaborator who worked with Walt Simonson back in the day in the 80s, is the letterer. And, of course, I mean, we're all familiar with Walt Simonson, I would hope, especially that run on Thor from 1983 to 87. I mean, it's arguably one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best comic book runs ever. But Ragnarok, we're talking about Thor again, but we're not talking about Marvel's Thor. We're talking about the mythological Thor, and Walt Simonson always displayed a vast knowledge of Norse mythology when he took over the Thor run at Marvel, and I think that's what made it really successful because it was a project that Walt Simonson was completely in love with. I mean, he's completely in love with, Norse mythology. And what Ragnarok is about, it's basically after Ragnarok. It's the twilight of the gods. All the 9 worlds have been destroyed, but Thor's corpse has been preserved by I'm not sure if the pronunciation is correct on this, but Radaskur, who is the squirrel who runs up and down the tree of life.
Yggdrasil.
Yes, Yggdrasil, and gives messages to the eagle atop the tree and transports basically insults back to the worm that lives below in the tree, Nog. And but Radaskur, the squirrel, was given directions by Odin to preserve his son's corpse after Ragnarok occurred. So Thor is dead, as we all know. That's what happens in Ragnarok. Him and the Midgard serpent basically destroy each other. But his corpse has been preserved, and therefore he's basically Thor is a zombie in this book. And it's just a fantastic book. I mean, anything you've ever read by Walt Simonson, you know there's going to be a lot of action. It's going to be a lot of hammer wielding. And we got dark elves. We've got other Norse mythological characters. I don't want to give away too much of the plot because I'd really rather folks go out and read this story rather than spoil it for you. But I can't say enough about it. I mean, the artwork is just spectacular. I mean, it's dynamic. Coloring, fantastic. It's published by IDW, and it's a really nice hardback volume. This volume 1 is. As a matter of fact, they're getting ready to release this summer volume 2, the next 6 issues. So we're up to 12 issues that have come out thus far with Walt Simonson's Ragnarok. Highly recommend it. Hope people will go out and buy this one up and read it and really enjoy it.
Now, are those continuations of that Ragnarok story, or are they kind of different parts of different events?
There's been 12 issues of the new Ragnarok comic by IDW. They've gathered the first 6 in a trade paperback, which has come out, and it's a hardback. And they're getting ready to release the second volume now with the next 6 issues from 6 to 12. But it is an ongoing series. And if you want to check out just some pencils or some layouts, I mean, go to Walt Simonson's Twitter page, and he's all the time posting like pages on there that you can see some of the layouts that he does for the book. I mean, it's really a treat. I mean, like I said, I took a big break in comics, for about 10, 11 years, and have been recently re-energized, about comics, and really, just rediscovered that love for them. And of all the new books that I've read out there, I don't know, maybe it's just the old fogey in me, but this book really brings it home for me. It gives me that same feeling I had, in 1983 when I first picked up a Walt Simonson Thor. or for that matter, in 1981, 82, when I picked up the first Walt Simonson graphic novel, Star Slammers. So, I mean, fantastic stuff.
I think you gave me this for maybe my birthday last year.
I
read it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it too. And like you were saying about his command of Norse mythology is evident. One of the things, I'm taking a lot of creative writing classes, one of the things they tell you is that as an author, you want to convey to your readers that they are in good hands.
Yes.
Like as they're reading, they feel comfortable. They're not questioning things. They're not pulled out of a story. They're kind of along for the ride. And that's how I felt. Like he's forging new land in Norse mythology, but it jives. It jives well. You don't question anything. And in particular, I like the way he handled the Dark Elves.
Right.
Again, I won't give any spoilers because people need to go read it for themselves. But I thought he did a really good job with developing the character of the Dark Elves in that book.
Great. It's great.
And just a continuation, going on what John said. I've seen his dick pic. It's great. It's probably my favorite of John's dick pics so far. And you really need to pick up John's dick pic beyond a shadow of a doubt and make it your own. Have it at home. Put it on your bookshelf. Definitely take John's dick pic home with you.
That's awesome. Zach, what about your dick pic, man?
Oh, holy shit, guys. I have like found...
Mr. Obscurity.
Exactly. The fucking comic book hipster over here scouring Comic-Cons trying to find...
It was printed on recycled coffee beans.
Yeah, from Nepal
man.
and all this kind of shit brought down by a Sherpa on vellum.
Wait a minute. It's printed on coffee beans. Come on, man. The independent crowd, man. That's where all the creative juices come from.
I was making fun of hipsters more than
man.
Fuckers out there playing like Peruvian flute music and shit. I mean, you got to send this off to some guy and he hands you a package.
How about recycled Tibetan prayer flags?
Oh, man.
Damn.
Wow.
Shots fired. All right, boys. Anyway,
It's all the rage in my neighborhood these days. Anyway,
All right.
So what I have
no cultural
for us today-
appropriation there.
Will you shut the fuck up so that I can talk and give my dick pic to those listening at home? Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, class. I threw that in there for you, Chris, being a teacher. I figured that's how we'd kind of segue you in, make
Appreciate
you feel
it.
welcome.
It's summer. Kiss my butt.
Right. But do your students...
Oh, bless it.
Tell me how to teacher mode.
All right, dickheads. See what I did there? I've got the Last Ride for Horsemen, and this is by Kevin Laporte, Nathan Smith, and Gavin Michelli. And this is just amazing. It's got the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. It's got Wild West. It's got steampunk. It's got really a little bit of everything in it that I love. I mean, I've always loved the Horsemen of the Apocalypse being presented. And each episode, there's only 2 issues out so far. And the first one is about famine, and the second one is about pestilence. And they're almost kind of like these steampunk archetypes that have shown up. Famine is, without giving away too much, is almost this great big robotic plow hand that's just destroying people and crops and everything that comes through. Whereas pestilence is kind of, in a degree, the snake oil salesman who's zombifying the populace and turning them into these ravenous monsters. And the artwork is phenomenal. The story is really great. It follows the town of Promise and follows kind of the exploit of Cater Dobbin, who is the henchman for Wilbur Fairless, who's kind of the baron of this town that's trying to take over the town. He's really very much the evil overlord of this town that controls all the money. It's very Wild West in that regard, and Cater Dobbin's kind of his henchman, but he's, to a degree, seems to be the main focus. He's the main character. And in each of these, they're trying to take down these different aspects of the Four Horsemen. And, I've loved everything about it. It's put out by Inverse Comics. Like I said, there's only 2 issues of it so far, but it's just been an absolute joy to read. And the steampunk stuff's spot on. The Wild West things are spot on. And there's actually a lot of biblical references strung out through the entire comic. And it's really interesting to see how they kind of weave together all those things. I'd love to be able to tell you when the next one's coming out, but they're kind of just whenever they get together to put one out. So you can tell they really wait till they've got it fully polished before they'll put anything out with it. But I love it. Continue being the comic book hipster that I am. I'll try to drag up and get in contact and hopefully read issues 3 and 4 of this.
Who's the creative team?
Looking at it here, it's Kevin Laporte, Nathan Smith, and Gavin Michelli.
Cool.
Okay.
Doing great work.
As always on the Geeks Boutique podcast, we encourage our listeners to get out to your local comic book shop, pick up these titles or whatever else strikes your fancy, just to get out there and support the genre, support the stores, and get involved in your local comics scene.
In our next segment, Beyond the Pages, the team discusses in-depth topics concerning the comics industry.
Okay, I know this is the moment that all of our listeners has been waiting for, when a bunch of middle-aged white guys sit around and talk about our review of Wonder Woman. The film has been an overwhelming success. I'm sure it's broken all expectations that were out there. It's being praised as a great leap forward for women in films, not only the actress, but having the female lead and then a female director. Do you guys think it's worth all these accolades that it's been getting?
I'm gonna get crucified for this, but I was not impressed. I mean, I'm on record of episode 2 going in with extremely high hopes, and it just didn't do anything spectacular for me. And I think one of the biggest things that jumped out to me, and I'm surprised that nobody's really hitting on this, is the fact that she doesn't ever really come into her own right as a powerful character and like the true extent of her powers without the aid of a man and without the love of the man showing up there. So it's still, she's this big leap forward, and she's this like feminist icon, but she's nothing. I mean, she's got her powers and everything, but she doesn't really unlock her true potential until without the love of the man in the movie. And I was like, I could have done without that.
People would argue that it was her love, not necessarily the love of her man. I mean, she could have been the love of a woman. I mean, Steve Trevor's part could have actually been played by a woman, and she could have been in love with her, and it would have unlocked her power.
It could have been her love of humanity.
But what's the need for any of that? I mean, she is a demigod. Shouldn't she be able to access that full power regardless? I mean, if we're going to, talk about the comics part of it, I mean, was that in the original? I mean, I haven't read a lot of the very original Wonder
She got tied up a lot.
Yeah.
Ow, ow.
We'll talk about that in just a moment.
Or she did a lot of tying up of others.
Geeks Boutique After Dark.
Well, I liked her relationship with Steve Trevor. I mean, she was tough, and she had the powers, I would say, before that, because she charged no man's land.
That could have been the end of the movie.
I think the kind of turning point was closer to the end when he met her on the watchtower. She'd killed the first guy, and then she's like, why didn't they stop? And he's like, well, people kind of suck.
You're right.
And you need to learn that. And here I am to teach you. Some of us suck. Some of us are good people. You got to take the good with the bad and do the right thing regardless. And maybe that was more of the turning point for me.
My other big thing too is there's no exploration into the backstory really of Morrow, and I would have liked to have known a lot more about like what was the breaking point. Like when did she go crazy? I'd like to have known more about that character. And I felt like it introduced some characters and it really didn't go anywhere with them. And they all to me, Morrow felt more like a piece of scenery than an actual dynamic character. That really didn't do anything to drive forward the narrative because they threatened to crush her with a tank and then just lets her go into the wild blue yonder.
Yeah. We'll talk more later in Hillbillies on Film about our review of the movie. I kind of wanted to bring up the feminism point. Is it a feminist movie? We had a listener write in on our Facebook page, Andrew Campbell from here in Lexington, and he kind of wanted us to talk about her creation. Her creator was William Marston. He had a very interesting family life. An episode ago, we mentioned the book by Jill Lepore, The Secret History of Wonder Woman. Give that a read. Or there's a really good NPR interview that came out in 2014 when the book launched on the Fresh Air show. She talks about the book and his interesting life. And as a historian, and John, you'll like this, she was very objective. She kind of just told the story without any judgment. And I think that was handled very well. Even when Terry Gross on NPR was kind of like, come on, give us the seedy details of how this three-way worked.
Right.
She was like, I don't care. It worked however they wanted it to work. And the two women that he was shacked up with continued to live together after he had died. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, you're saying Lepore didn't have an agenda when she wrote this book.
No, as a historian, she's like, here's the facts.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated her sticking to her guns on that. But he was an interesting dude. He was married to his wife, Elizabeth, and she was a career woman, professional person. But he also took a lover that was a former student of his named Olive Byrne. Olive's aunt was Margaret Sanger, who, again, is a gray character because she did found what became Planned Parenthood, but she's also into the eugenics movement and like the negative side of it, like unfit people should not be allowed to reproduce kind of stuff. Mm. So Wonder Woman comes out of this weird concoction of all this stuff. Marston was a psychologist, and I think he came very largely out of the Freudian school of thought. Mm. And I'll read some from the Wikipedia page, and which also quotes the book Men of Tomorrow by Gerard Jones. So bear with me here for a minute. On the Wikipedia site, it reads, though Marston had described female nature as being more capable of submission emotion, in his other writings and interviews, he referred to submission as a noble practice. He did not shy away from the sexual implications. He said, quoting Marston now, the only hope for peace is to teach people who are full of pep and unbound force to enjoy being bound. Only when the control of self by others is more pleasant than the unbound assertion of the self in human relationships can we hope for a stable, peaceful human society. Giving to others, being controlled by them, submitting to other people cannot possibly be enjoyable without a strong erotic element.
All right. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, kids.
I'll keep going. One of the purposes of these bondage depictions was to induce eroticism in readers as a part of what he called sex love training. Through his Wonder Woman comics, he aimed to condition readers to becoming more readily accepting of loving submission to loving authorities rather than being so assertive with their own destructive egos. About male readers, he later wrote, give them an alluring woman stronger than themselves to submit to, and they'll be proud to become her willing slaves.
Well, I mean, you know, I mean, some of the things that we've talked about, some of your notes also mentioned Reform Island.
Right, I'll keep going.
Yeah.
Marston combined these themes with others, including restorative and transformative justice, rehabilitation, regret, and its role in civilization. These appeared often in his depiction of the near-ideal Amazon civilization of Paradise Island, and especially its Reform Island penal colony. I said penal. Which played a central role in many stories, and was the loving alternative to retributive justice of the world ruined by men. These themes were partially evident in his last story, in which prisoners freed by evilness, she was like an early arch-villain of Wonder Woman.
Freed by evil. Huh.
Evilness, yeah. So they responded to Amazon rehabilitation and now have good dominance/submission balance. And so they actually rise up against Evilist and stop her to restore the Amazonians to power. So, okay, that's a lot to unpack there.
That sounds like Stockholm Syndrome or some shit here, man.
Hey, listen, it sounds a lot better to me than what Doc Savage did to rehabilitate criminals. I mean, Doc Savage rehabilitated criminals by doing a lobotomy on them. So, I mean, I think I'd rather be bound or seduced by a woman that I felt erotic feelings for rather than to have my mind drilled.
Yeah.
So
Touche, good sir, touche.
Some people need lobotomized.
True that.
It's Wonder Woman is this weird character born out of all these ideas. You know, on the one page, she's a pinup model. On another page, she's got these bondage motifs going on. But it's according to Marston, it's all done through love, and better peace can be had if people just learn to submit to a gentle authority. Of course, provided you have good, gentle authority.
So she's the symbol of our mothers?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I mean,
Our sexified mothers. But of course, I'm always in the camp of, let's not. Wonder Woman is something different now. She is seen as this progressive female figure, and that's awesome. And I love the way that was treated in the movie. And I don't like to judge the art by the artist a lot of the time, if I can get away from that.
Fair enough.
I don't know how you guys feel.
I mean, it sounds like he created a character that was a living Oedipus complex more than anything.
You got to remember, too, this guy's also the creator of the lie detector machine as well.
Yeah, he
Just
did
wanted to throw that in there.
a lot of work on the, the significance of elevated heart rates between anxiety levels and stuff like that, which went into the creation of the lie detector machine.
Well, I mean, Wonder Woman does have the lasso of truth.
Right. There it is, the lasso of truth.
So you've got bondage, you've got lie detectors. I mean, there you go.
This guy has an interesting life.
It sounds like he's really concerned about justice.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's really, really obsessed with that idea of everything being fair and that everybody getting what they deserve, basically.
Well, I guess he deserved two women, though, right? Because he had his wife and he had his mistress, and they all got along.
It also sounds like he's kind of concerned with a lot with order and to a degree kind of that subjugation, and that there is like you said, a noble pursuit and being bound and everything as well. That's kind of sounds like to be an element as well in there.
Yeah. One of our guys standing by here listening, Dan Preece, is still here. He just handed me a note. Shows that he had a distinct love for law and order.
Wow.
I mean, that's certainly the way she comes across in the movie. She acts out of love and believes in the power of love.
Oh,
that's what she finds the saving grace of humanity.
I'll concede that. Yeah, she does that in the movie. Although I don't feel like she is as feminist. The character in the movie isn't as feminist as I was hoping that it would be. She kept giving pretty doe eyes to Steve Trevor the whole movie, which really bothered me.
Being a feminist doesn't mean you can't get your freak on.
Well, I mean,
You can be a pretty feminist.
Well, and let's face it, guys, Chris Pine is a handsome dude.
I'd make doe eyes at Chris Pine.
I would lovingly submit to Chris Pine. I'm on record.
We're getting like a weird laundry list of like homoerotic fantasies over here, Jason. I'm keeping tabs of this shit, man. Me and your wife are gonna have a talk later. But I mean, yeah, I was like, we'll definitely delve more into that when we get to the film aspect of things and really kind of pick it apart on that. But I think you bring up a really good point, Chris.
But with Themysciran culture, aren't men supposed to be almost treated like dogs?
I'm not as familiar.
I thought that was the case, like, that they preferred to be with women and men were,
Necessary for reproduction.
Yeah, they were just there to be, to show them their dick pics and go about their way.
Holy shit, they were right.
Tinder has come to the Amazon island.
Way to dig deeper, boys. If any of our intrepid listeners would like to chime in on this topic or anything else you've heard us cover on Geeks Boutique, you can drop us an email at geeksboutiquelex@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at geeksboutique1 or even message us on Instagram with geeks_boutique_Lexington. You can also find our Facebook page at Geeks Boutique Lex. We'd love to hear from you, and one lucky listener will have their comment read out on next month's show.
Settle in and uncork your favorite homemade wine. In Hillbillies on Film, we give our backcountry thoughts on film and long-form television. Highfalutin Hollywood types we ain't, but we might have a thought or two worth your while. Sit and spell and listen now, you hear? Hillbillies on Film! Somebody get that heifer!
Alrighty, so speaking of Wonder Woman, it's time for our official review. Scott and myself and Zach, John had to see it later. We're able to send ourselves to a advanced screening of Wonder Woman put on by Collectibles, etc. here in town. So we got to see it on June the 2nd, which was a Thursday before the opening. So we all got to see it early. What'd you guys think of the film? John, why don't you start?
Yeah, I saw it after you guys. I actually went and saw it with my wife. I really had a lot of high hopes for this movie.
Yep.
And, it's something, it was a comment that my wife made, when I actually can drag her to one of these genre movies, she was looking forward to this movie too. When we came out, she goes, you just don't seem excited about this movie as you're excited about other movies. And I'd have to say that, yeah, there was something lacking. And, it was really hard for me to put my finger on it. I don't know. Maybe it's the story that I felt was lacking, and some of the characters that some of the characterizations of Wonder Woman's team that kind of got to me a little bit. But she's great. Don't get me wrong. Gal Gadot, I don't think they could have found a better Wonder Woman. I think it's a great depiction of a powerful woman, demigod. I think that was really evident. But I don't know. There were parts of the story that I felt were really corny and almost immature in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of different plot holes that really bugged me. The big one that really bugged me was at the end when, and of course, spoiler alerts here, is when Steve Trevor kills himself by destroying that plane full of gas. Mm-hmm. And I think they tried to explain that away because there was some kind of timer. But when you're watching the movie, it just feels like, why is he killing himself?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not going anywhere. We can destroy it later.
Right. We can destroy this plane later. We can land it somewhere. We can crash it in the ocean. I can fly this thing around until one woman beats the bad guy and then comes to help me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he killed himself. And there was no immediacy for the need for him to commit suicide. And I understand why they did it, because they used that in the story to serve as Wonder Woman's, coming out, her power manifesting itself, in full by the loss of someone that she's fallen in love with. I get that, but man, they could have done that in so many different ways. They could have had German soldiers running up the aisles of the planes with their guns drawn, aimed at his head, so that, it was there was an immediacy to the reason that he needed to destroy the plane and thus himself, to save the day.
Mm-hmm.
That just didn't make sense to me.
They had parachutes at that time, yeah?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it didn't make sense. And I know
this was his second plane crash. You should figure that out by now, right?
I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but he was like a spy. Surely they taught him how to jump out of a plane with a fucking parachute, yeah?
Right. One of the other plot holes, I thought, like when they killed the town with the gas, and I know this is kind of picky, but Wonder Woman goes back to the town. She walks around in the town. Obviously she's immune to the gas.
Yeah.
Steve Trevor follows her because he's worried about this woman he loves. He walks into the edge of the gas cloud, and he's coughing the gas out of his lungs, and they've already made a point in the film that this gas is like instant death, and Steve Trevor doesn't die. I mean, it's a huge mistake in my part. I don't know, maybe that's editing, but...
No, I agree. Plot holes. If we're going to talk about plot holes, let's talk about the fact that he's got this notebook in his pocket that he crashes the motherfucking plane into the ocean with a notebook with paper pages, and it's perfectly readable and perfectly intact when she drags him out of the ocean.
Right. I just think...
I'm sorry, that's me being picky, but that's just...
No, but I think there's too many. I mean, when you can have moments like that in the film, and the film still be successful.
Maybe he had a Ziploc bag.
But there's a... Right, maybe.
Right. You don't want to know where he kept that notebook at for the wreck. Shit got serious and decisions were made.
When you get too many of those moments, then it becomes, to me, almost immature storytelling ability.
We don't know what kind of paper the Department of Defense has innovated, okay? They
Well,
don't
or
let that
the
come
Third
out.
Reich at that point. That would be the Third Reich innovating.
Second Reich.
Second Reich, yeah.
World War I. I think for me, the biggest criticism kind of were the villains. I didn't think they lived up to Wonder Woman.
They were about as maniacal as a box of kittens.
Yeah, and there was one scene that made them really comical. Again, speaking of the gas, right? They go and they've got the German high command in that office, and they're all discussing the war, and they want to go ahead and sign for peace. So the lead bad guy and his Dr. Poison's with him. They chuck a grenade of the gas in there and lock the door on him, and then they throw a mask in as well. And she's like, "Oh, the mask won't help them." And he's like, "I know." And they kind of giggle and scamper away.
Right.
I'm like, what it was all serious up until then, and then it's like Boris and Natasha, and I must kill the moose and squirrel. And
Right. I mean,
I actually loved that part. I laughed
It was
so
funny.
hard. I laughed so hard.
but it drew me out. It drew me out.
It
and
drew
I'm
you
like,
out of the
wait,
film, right?
That's
Drew you out
not
of the film.
congruent,
Right. I mean, the fact that they poisoned all those people, was that not maniacal enough?
I'm sorry, but I'm still hung up on the moose and squirrel shit. That's awesome.
You got to play games with them.
And she didn't do anything to Dr. Poison. Again, like Zach said earlier, we have no idea who she was and what her motivation was.
Or why do we care?
Well, Jason, I'd like for you to speak on the fact about her team and what we talked about, the characterizations of her team.
Zach, I got that from Zach. So.
What do you think about this, Zach? I mean,
The drunken Scotsman.
Yeah, that's the thing.
me Indian.
Me trade wampum and
Me
do
trade
smoke
wampum.
signals.
No.
But yet this is a movie about diversity and a powerful woman, and yet we've got stereotypes.
That fucker's name is like runs with Starbucks. I mean, he's like the last Native American dude in Hollywood, and he's picking up roles like this. Come on now, you can do better than that.
Well, props to him, but
But still, like you said, that's the characterizations of these people. Is they were huge stereotypes. You've got the rough and rugged American, and then you've got the drunken Scotsman and the Indian tracker and the Turkish dude wearing the fez. I was like, are you serious? Like, who in a war zone is just catting around wearing a fez? I know for our Doctor Who fans, fezzes are cool and all that good jazz.
Well, the Turks were involved in World War One, so there probably was some fez
that was
wearing.
more of a Moorish thing.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
But I don't know. Like I said, if Hollywood is going to be and laud itself as the bastion of social change, if they're going to tout stereotype characters like this, they got to pick one side or the other. I feel like.
I guess the flip side is that stereotypes like that may have actually existed at the turn of the century, but nevertheless, it just felt goofy to me.
Yeah, I agree. And going back to the villains, Ares was not an That's Mr. Rogers in a tinfoil hat right there. Like, I'm not intimidated at all by that Ares.
Well, and I'm going to pick on, obviously, I could never do CGI like those guys do CGI, but it felt like a video game to me at the end when she was fighting. Almost like the same thing with Batman v Superman. It was one of my big criticisms when they were fighting Doomsday, is that it just looked fake. It looked video game-ish. And that's what I felt like when she was battling Ares.
Catch the tank, catch the grenades, throw them back at the attacker. I've played this game before.
But at the very end, she, after she realizes her powers, she whoops Ares like nothing. I mean, she is a demigod. He is a god.
Full-blown god.
Regardless if she has realized her powers, the fight is going to be ridiculously hard, period.
He wiped out all of Mount Olympus. She just realized she could do stuff. Has no, she has the training as an Amazonian warrior, but she has no training with any of those powers. She's literally just making shit up as she goes.
Yeah.
Well, isn't this wait a minute. You guys like Star Wars, like Rey and Kylo Ren.
Well, she's thinking the same thing. I was thinking
we're a bunch of hypocritical bastards sitting over here, so you leave us alone. We'll be ignorance is bliss.
Mary Jane is. I mean, Rey is a Mary Jane character, though. There's no getting around it.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw this in here though. I feel like when she storms no man's land, and you've got Wonder Woman in no man's land, that could have been the end of the movie right there, breaking through the German defenses and leading the Allies to winning the war. That right there, I could have seen that been the end of the movie, and I think it would have been great.
Yeah, because it was kind of downhill after that whole scene. They saved the village.
Yeah, that was a badass scene where she's charging the trench lines and everything, and that was an amazing scene.
Jumped up and
really, really cool.
That bell tower and took out that sniper. Oh, she was whooping ass left and right.
And then the rest of the movie could have just been resolution about them going on and kicking ass and just claiming and ending the war thanks to Wonder Woman.
And just finish up that email to Batman and we're done.
Exactly.
And I really did like all the Themyscira stuff. I really did.
Yeah, that's fine.
It was great. Except for all the point of view bullet shots.
I was going to let Michael Bay direct the next one. The bullets will explode that time.
All right, let's take a short break and head into our next segment in our interview with Preece, creator of CHEMystery.
Okay, geeks, I would like for you to please welcome again our special guest, Preece, to the Piece of Junk Studios. I just wanted to say Chris has recently published his CHEMystery educational comic, and we've invited him in to talk about it. Chris, tell us about yourself and what you're into and about why and how you decided to do this comic.
All right. Well, I'm from Eastern Kentucky, specifically Martin County. As if you live in Eastern Kentucky, we all go by where we live as far as county-wise because, the counties are so small in Kentucky.
Martin County?
Representing. I think we have
East Side.
three Martin Countyans in this room.
That is correct.
Yeah. What I'm into, well, I'm a high school chemistry teacher, and basically I've narrowed my interests down to comic books and chemistry. And when I started to get into teaching high school, I really started to look into the science that is in comics so I could try to share some of that love with my students. And I started my website, atomicuniverse.org, and I did that for a little while. And then the more I dug into science comics, the more I realized that there's really not a whole lot out there, and that I could just try to write my own. And so I started writing it, and about 2 years later, it's here now, and it's crazy. It's crazy.
Right.
Didn't you also? Sorry, I'm jumping in. Didn't you also do some consulting on some of the issues of Solar, Man in the Atom?
Oh yeah.
That thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I met Frank Barbary at a comic convention while I was living in New Jersey, and he was doing Solar, Man of the Atom for Dynamite, and I was very excited for that to come out because Dr. Solar's a gold key character, a golden age character, and very science based. And so I told him, if you don't have, I'm sorry, if you need some help with science stuff, if you don't have a science background, certainly shoot me an email. I'll help you with anything that you need. And he took me up on it a couple times. And
Sweet.
Yeah, so I did some stuff for him, and then that actually led to me end up doing helping out Greg Rucka with an issue on Lazarus, which Greg Rucka is now writing an amazing run on Wonder Woman.
All right. Well, man, this kid, I can't tell you how into science this kid is. I mean, what do you got, a bachelor's of science in chemistry from Moorhead.
Yeah.
You got a master's in education from Moorhead.
Yep.
Doing a PhD now at UK, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right.
I did a couple of years of chemistry graduate level courses at UK, and then I'm coming back to try and get my PhD in STEM education.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
Yeah, he's
awesome.
Yeah, he's really into science, man. And let me tell you, he's into some science heroes too. I remember I've known Chris since he was about 12 years old. Me and his uncle are really good friends. I kind of feel like I'm his bad uncle. I'm the one that gives him
Bad Uncle John.
I think I give him like really bad advice, you know, and that kind of stuff. He gets really good advice from his Uncle Dan, you know, who's sitting here with us, but he gets bad advice from me. But this kid's really into science stuff, so much so. This is one character he's always into is Firestorm. He has absolutely the ugliest fucking comic nerd shirt I've ever seen. And it is the old Firestorm costume T-shirt. And I'm telling you, I'm embarrassed to be around this kid when I'm walking around cons.
How
with
many
him.
shades of yellow are there?
Oh my God, many for Firestorm. Many for
What
Firestorm.
was that, John? I couldn't hear you over Chris's shirt. I'm sorry.
Well, Chris, you wrote this. Tell us a little bit about the artist Josh Reynolds. I mean, I've read the book. I mean, I know you were giving me giving me shit about not reading it, but I have actually read the book, and it's great. I mean, you've got this great lighthearted story about two young kids who undergo a radioactive accident and they become super powerful, super strong. They can manipulate atoms. They can see atoms, at a subatomic level. And throughout the book are all these like chemistry lessons that are really, in my opinion, I mean, just brilliant for an educational tool. I mean, there's, Neil Bohr's model of the atom. I mean, you talk about how to make paint from scratch, although I'm not sure if that's a good thing because cadmium is poisonous, right?
Well, I mean, it just depends on what mineral you're using,
right.
Depending on how safe you should be.
So, I mean, it's a fantastic book. I mean, there's lots of how-tos in it. We talk about stuff that I hadn't read about since I was in high school about homogeneous compounds and heterogeneous compounds or whatever. I mean, it's just it's a really brilliant book. I think any educational institution would be beside themselves to get a hold of a tool like this to use it in class. They could really captivate the students' imaginations and get across, what it is, your job is to basically educate these kids and, make us all the rulers of the earth, right?
Right.
So,
Thanks.
So,
I appreciate that.
but tell us about Josh Reynolds, the artist of the book. I mean,
so I was scouring the internet and I found a website. I can't remember the name of the website. It's like freelance.com, I want to say. And I put the job posting up there that I wanted to make CHEMystery and laid out that how much I would pay him to make preview pages. And a ton of people got back to me, and I was sifting through all their artwork, and then eventually I got to Josh's, and it has such a clean, crisp feel to it. And for an education comic, I feel like it's very important to not have a lot of scratchy lines, that everything be, fairly solid and what you're looking at. Where your eye needs to be.
yeah.
And he has that.
I was really impressed with the chemical compound models. I don't know how to say it. The diagrams of the actual chemicals.
Yeah. Those are actually mine.
Oh, you did those? Okay. They were really impressive. And what about he did all the drawings of the Bohr's model and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff is like crystal clear. I mean, very illustrative and informative, I thought. So, I thought it was great. I mean, where can we pick up your book, man? I mean, where can we get this at?
So the publisher is Thunderstone, and you can certainly see a link to buy it from my website, atomicuniverse.org, and Thunderstone's book's website. And they got it into two of the major booksellers or book distributors. I know Joseph Beth is going to be carrying it here in Lexington.
Right.
Nice.
And unfortunately, it was not able to get into Diamond for some reason. So it won't necessarily be in your comic shop, unfortunately. But shop around. Certainly the internet is a huge tool. So look online.
You're going to be setting up at some conventions as well, right?
Yeah, tell us about your appearances coming up.
Oh yeah. So I will be in Louisville at the end of July for Fandom Fest. I'll have a booth there. Josh Reynolds and I both went to Heroes Con, 2 weeks back? And that was actually the first con that I've been behind a booth. It was very interesting. A lot of fun.
That's great. Well, I'm going to ask you to do one last thing for me. Okay, I'm going to go back into the past.
Don't embarrass him, man.
All right. Okay. I knew this kid when he was 12 years old, right? So me and his uncle would take him places. Like we would go to the movies and stuff like that. And one of the big things that we all loved was Lord of the Rings. And this kid had the creepiest fucking imitation of Gollum I have ever heard in my whole life. Now I want you to conjure up Gollum for me, Chris. Come on.
Oh boy.
If you won't, I will.
We can have a Gollum off.
That sounds sticky.
Do it.
You're on.
Are we competing for the best Gollum?
I think we are.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
Let's do it.
Chris first. Come on.
All right.
Stupid fat hobbits. Tricksy hobbitses.
F
That is fucking brilliant.
Zach, do you even want to go now? Do you even want to go?
Wow, in this nature of the, I don't know that I can compete with that.
His dick pic just shrank a little.
Say that as Gollum.
I got this.
Go it, man.
Tricksy chemistry teachers with their little comic books come here thinking that they drew a better Gollum. No, but we must be nice to the guests. We must have the guests here. We must let them win. No, they wish only to see you suffer.
Well, maybe we should make this a poll on Facebook.
Yes. Who did the better Gollum?
Have the listeners.
Yeah.
Chris
And
Preece
who did
or number
Smeagol
2.
as well?
Yeah, a little bit of Smeagol.
So juicy sweet.
No.
We're gonna have to make this a traveling road show. Fuck these Geek Boutiques guys. Gollum and Gollum going on the road, pimping comic books.
Say Walt Simonson against Gollum, Chris, please, just one time.
Walt Simonson. I eat your potatoes.
What's turtles, Brussels? This is totally derailed.
Follow us now, brave fanboys and fangirls, as we lead you into a realm of terror and gore. It's time for us all to face our fears and step into the Mausoleum.
All right, this month we're bringing you a double feature to the Mausoleum. John and I both have a couple picks that we want to briefly recommend to you. I found out about Through the Woods when I was taking Tom Marksberry's Rhetoric of Horror class. It was assigned, but we have never actually covered it in the class, so I kind of read it on my own. I would describe it as a graphic novel. It's a little smaller in size. Stories, and I believe art also by Emily Carroll. They're presented, our guest Chris Preece was talking earlier about like folklore kind of fairy tale kind of stories. And that's what it is, except just kind of ratcheted up the horror and the gore in these fairy tales. They still fit the genre, they still fit the storytelling style, but they're creepy as all get out. I mean, a couple of them gave me a little chill up my spine when I was reading them. And the art, while a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit cartoony, but it's also quite gory in places. It really gets your blood pumping, especially some of the decisions that are made by the characters where they kind of like willingly submit to the horror. I think that's one thing that really causes dread. And maybe we talk about the concept of dread a lot, but you have some of these characters kind of bringing forth the horror or like giving themselves over to it. And that's something that really just freaks me out. I don't know how you guys feel about that kind of concept, but check out Through the Woods. Again, it's by Emily Carroll. been out a couple of years. It's kind of aimed at a younger, like a young adult, almost teen audience, but it'll get you going. I wouldn't recommend reading it to the kiddos because they won't sleep ever again, perhaps.
Okay, well,
Through the woods.
Yeah, that's great. I've got a book here. It's I guess it belongs in the Mausoleum. It's about monsters. It's a little bit more lighthearted. It's called Field Guide to Kentucky Kaiju, and everybody knows that Kaiju is Japanese for monster. And it's drawn by Justin Stewart and Tressina Bowling, and written by Shawn Pryor. It's a publication by Apex Book Company. And basically, it's a small graphic novel in the size of what you would think a field guide would be, like a field guide to, I don't know.
Pocket-sized
almost.
almost.
Almost pocket-sized type of book, like, a field guide to trees or a field guide to birds, that kind of thing. But this is a field guide to Kentucky Kaiju, monsters that exist in Kentucky at various locations. Again, it's drawn by two phenomenal artists. They're local artists, and we want to support them, obviously, in every way that we can. But we've got monsters. I thought I'd just read a couple of entries in here about these monsters. So you would turn to a page about a monster, and basically you get a description of it. You see a drawing of it. And we've got one called Marrowbone, which comes out of the county city of origin is Marrowbone, Kentucky.
That's a real place, right?
Well, I don't know if that is exactly a real place. I know when I was first in college, I spent a whole summer in Marrowbone, West Virginia, cutting weeds for surveying for a mining company, and it was not a pleasant place to be. I never saw a monster there, though. But these monsters are described as 47 feet, 10 inches in height, and 8,000 pounds, and they live in these towns, and they have these great little histories, beside them. And I think a lot of people who live in Kentucky have heard of Rabbit Hash, Kentucky. Up in northern Kentucky, where they have a funny election every year. I think they elected a mayor, a dog as a mayor, on several different occasions, and just recently they elected a dog. But the Kentucky Kaiju that lives in Rabbit Hash, Kentucky was Airedale destructus. So you have a lot of these Catdronus, which is basically a combination of a bat and a cat. And then you've got Puffs, which is just giant panda bear. And, Komodo supremus, whose origin was Gravel Switch, Kentucky. And he's 100 feet high, and he weighs 25,000 pounds. So, this is great stuff. The descriptions of the monsters, it's tongue-in-cheek, it's comical, it's, in a lot of ways brilliant. And, I have to give credit to Shawn Pryor for that. And again, the artwork by Justin Stewart and Tressina Bowling is spot on. Justin has a totally different style than Tressina, but their styles blend well. she'll do one monster, he'll do the next.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's just such a cool little format. Even the paper feels cool. The cover, everything about the book, it just feels cool in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So I would highly recommend this. And as a matter of fact, Apex and Kentucky Kaiju is going to be, they're going to be pimping that at the Hilton Lexington Suites on July 8th. It's at the Lexington Legendary Book Bash or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And and again, that's at the Hilton Lexington Suites on July 8th, and I think it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. So everybody get out there. You're going to find a lot of good stuff out there, a lot of good books, but support these local artists and local writer.
Local publisher.
And Apex Book Company is a great company. They publish Apex Magazine, which does science fiction and fantasy and horror stories.
And they've sent us a preview copy of one of the more recent
really?
novels that we're going to review later on the show.
That's great.
Too, so.
The guy that runs that whole outfit, or one of the main forces behind it, is Jason Sizemore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also take classes with him at the Carnegie Center here in town. He teaches creative writing classes on a couple different genres. He does sci-fi, he does horror, he does fantasy. He's a really sweet guy. He's come and given some talks for my department at work a couple times. Yeah. Really active in the community and local, and it's a really top-notch publication they put out. They've been up for Hugos and Stokers.
Yeah.
They're not screwing around.
Yeah. And again, how can you go wrong with a book entitled A Field Guide to Kentucky Kaiju? Come on. That's fantastic.
I like it because it's kind of an homage to Kentucky and these, we got a lot of weird small towns through the state with these kooky names. And they'll kind of riff on that, Shawn Pryor, the writer, he would kind of take the weird names and kind of riff on that to come up with the monsters or some funny detail of the monster that's particular to those communities. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right.
My lord, there is an urgent communication from Admiral Hodden at Imperial Security Command. He is awaiting your instruction.
Captain, tell the Admiral that I want a full report on this segment ship from Fantasy Flight's X-Wing game. I require an in-depth history and strategic analysis of the featured vessel.
As you wish, my lord.
Lieutenant, you heard the orders. Relay the message to the Admiral at once.
Hello, pilots. Mike, the Admiral Harden here with Scott, Rebel Scum, Dills, to talk X-Wing with you. This episode, we delve into the B-Wing class fighter and give our tips and tricks for maximizing the effectiveness on the table. Scott, can you tell us a little bit about the backstory of this ship?
Sure, I'd love to. The B-Wing was actually introduced in Return of the Jedi in 1983, and as with every Star Wars film, they have to not only introduce new characters, but they introduce new ships and technology. That's kind of the thing with Star Wars, and the ships themselves almost become characters, like the Millennium Falcon, the B-Wing, the A-Wing, the X-Wing,
Yeah, totally.
etc. So the B-Wing is a great addition. It's a very unique, interesting design because it has a gyroscopic cockpit that the rest of the body of the ship kind of rotates around. It's a single pilot ship. It's a weapons platform, so it carries a huge arsenal of a lot of different missile and blaster type weapons. Interesting, cool looking ship. My favorite ship from Return of the Jedi is actually the A-Wing, but the B-Wing has really made its way into my heart since we've been playing it on the X-Wing game. I've really decided that I like flying the KN Farlander hero for the B-Wing. He also has an interesting history. He was recruited by Mon Mothma, and he fought in all of the major galactic Civil War battles, during A New Hope through Return of the Jedi. The B-Wing actually existed 4 years before the Battle of Yavin, and it was manufactured by Slane and Corporal Manufacturing. I never heard of that before, but B-Wings are typically part of the Blue Squadron. And several years back, this ship was very much a contender, so much so that it was out of balance with the game, and it was causing a lot of ruckus, kind of like the Defender that we talked about the last time. So eventually they got around and had to kind of, tweak the rules a little bit so that it wasn't quite as potent. Nowadays, the B-Wing is not so much of a contender, and that's just because the Rebels tend to be really slow, or the maneuverability might be limited, or most importantly, they just don't have good defense dice.
Or the lack thereof.
And what I really like the KN build is the fact that he's a stress bot. So KN actually improves the more stress that you add on to him. You're going to want to push the limit when you're doing your maneuvers so that you can get that extra action and also get that stress, because whenever you have stress and you make an attack roll, you are able to actually, what does it say, Mike?
The unique pilot ability, when attacking, you may remove one stress token to change all of your eyeballs to hits.
Yeah.
Which is just maddeningly frustrating playing against him.
That's pretty good.
I like to put the
Mangler cannon?
The Mangler cannon. It's a weapons platform, so you got your proton torpedoes, you got your normal front-end fire, you got your Mangler cannon. You can also put, an additional crew slot on the B-Wing, and I think I've got
Kyle Katarn.
And so his special ability is every time you remove a stress token, so you use the stress to help you out on the firing, you remove a stress token, and then he helps you add a focus. So you get a focus that you can use for something else. One more little thing on this build that really helps out is the sensor jammers, which frustrates the crap out of Mike.
Gag.
And I love it for that reason. But I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling on here, Mike. What do you think about it? What do you got to say?
Thank God in heaven that this ship is really expensive as this build looks. I mean, it's nearly 50 points.
That's half your squad.
You can't take this ship off the board one-on-one. You've got to gang up on this ship, and you have got to attack the flanks of it. you can get behind it, but the problem with that is this son of a gun has a 2 choreograph turn that introduces stress, and then he goes through the whole flipping racket of making me extremely angry with the stress token.
That's what it's there for.
You know what I love doing when I'm flying bees? And one of the maneuvers that I love doing is if you have a squad of 3 of them flying, which is approximately 100 points, and you use the barrel rolls to keep them in sync, and then you can keep using those barrel rolls, and you can get them to line all 3 of them, get an enemy opponent in each of their arcs. So you've got 3 of them coming at you all at the same time. That's a lot of fun for me. That's one of the, like just flying them in formation. It's kind of the, the hallmark of flying those.
Yeah, and the whole 12 reds at range 1 helps too.
That should kill most anything aside from the big ships, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that 2K turn, that's the shortest one in the game, right? Mike, you're more of an Imperial player.
The only exception to the rule is you've got 1 defender pilot, Countess Rayad. If she gets ionized, the rules still allow her to, and since she reveals a straight maneuver, she can 1K turn on you, but she has to be ionized to do it.
Oh, okay. So she could pull off a 1.
Yep.
Wow.
But, the reason I actually got to pick the ship this week or this month, and the reason I picked it is it's a fun build, and there's a lot of creative players out there, so maybe they can do more with this. Maybe they can look at the things we're talking about, and maybe they'll find that little niche, that will take this to the next level, so... And it's a rebel ship. We did Imperials last time, so we had to do a different faction.
Didn't he come out in the Rebel Aces set with the red paint job B-wing?
Yeah.
And there's some of those upgrades too, like the different titles you can take the pilot or add some things. I think that was all in the Rebel Aces set.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Rebel Aces. I just kill them.
Red makes it go faster.
I remember back in the day, this ship came out early. It was like one of the first few wave of releases. People were just running the Blue Squadron pilot, which is at 24 points, and they just have four of them in a 100-point squad, just naked
sledgehammers.
Pilots, and that was just a lot of shields and hull to chew through with all that firepower coming back at you. I think maybe the game has progressed and people have so much experience playing it now that their real lack of maneuverability is their downfall.
You get on these ships' flanks, you can take them out of the game pretty quickly.
They're kind of sitting ducks once you get around them.
Get out of that firing arc.
I mentioned earlier in the show that on July 9th, it'll be Sunday evening starting at 7, they have an X-Wing open gaming night. They have little tournaments they run, usually 3 or 4 rounds. It's a $5 entry fee, but they give cash, store credit prizes. The first place is $20, second is $10, the third and fourth places are $5, so you get your money back. I think the Corellian Blood Stripes Met head out to the next one on July 9th.
Absolutely.
I'm planning to be there,
Yeah, trying to get down there and support the store. They're trying to get their X-Wing scene up and going. They carry the full line of X-Wing ships. Anything you need, that you can pick it up there. Play mats, everything. They got the whole 9 yards.
And the thing of it is, too, for X-Wing, it only takes a 3x3 play space. And where they do a lot of Magic together and they have rows and rows of tables, and it's a perfect venue to set up and play X-Wing. It's a great community. It's a great space to play. And it's really conveniently located if you live in the Lexington area.
Mm-hmm.
They're really nice guys, too.
Mike and Zach, you guys played a game right before we recorded today. You want to tell us a little bit about that? And
nope.
Who got their faces
Would
melted?
like to not talk about that.
No?
We did. I'd love to talk about it.
Fuck you, Mike.
Well, go on, Admiral. Tell us all about it.
Admiral
dickhead. All right, Zach, give us the skinny. What happened with you?
I kicked the shit out of you the first half of the game, and then you still won.
So what'd you play?
Shittily, apparently. That's exactly what I played. Now, I don't know. Like, it's kind of my best kept secret. I don't know if I feel like sharing it.
You don't want to reveal?
Especially, no. I'll reveal maneuvers, and that's about it.
Okay.
No, my preferred build is actually the Hawk with Dace Bone Arm with Ion Turret, and then 3 Syndicate Thug Y-Wings, all with the Unhinged Astromech and Ion Turrets. And the nice thing about the Unhinged Astromech is it makes all of your Speed 3 maneuvers green maneuvers, so you've taken virtually half the dial now as a green maneuver for a Y-Wing. And it really ups their maneuverability and gives you a lot more options.
Yeah, they're speedy.
With the upgrades, absolutely, but with those Ion Turrets and then Dace's ability to take a stress token and then do another point of damage, whereas an Ion Turret normally deals a base of 1 damage and an Ion token, it's letting you to one target do 2 points of damage. And
all the way out at range 3, too.
Yeah. all the way to range 3. I don't know. I mean, things were going well, and then I just was not rolling well at all today. I'm totally gonna pass the buck and blame the dice, and not take any responsibility for my failure today at all.
Well, that's the good thing about X-Wing. You can always just blame the dice.
Absolutely.
I think we would probably blame this one on the dice. He flew a heavily turreted squadron. I flew a new build I've never played before. The guys in the Blood Stripes got together and got me a decimator for my birthday. Which
What were we thinking?
Greatly appreciate.
Yeah, that was a terrible idea.
So for the first time, I played just the base level 3, the base pilot skill 3. I can't remember what they call it, but just flew around with, I can't remember the upgrade card that gives you the double target lock, and just kind of flew
weapons
the
engineer.
Yeah, it flew that around with a combination of the Special Forces tie and Darth Vader. Both that Zachary got me for my birthday. Thank you.
Oh,
or
terrible
no, it was
idea.
Christmas. It was Christmas.
Christmas, terrible idea.
And
A lot of love in the room right now.
These
What's
are the
the
same.
decimator's nickname? Zach's got a nickname for everything.
What is it,
Jason's got the snowplow.
snowplow.
Yeah.
Well, because one of the cast
Snowplow of death.
one of the pilots can basically just run you over with the ship and actually does damage to you.
O'Kuhn, yeah. Oh, that guy's an asshole.
Agreed. But now I think, I mean, it's definitely a wonderful game, and it was a good build, and I think everything went smooth. I definitely want to try it again. I'll probably play that at the tournament at D20s.
I'm going to be showing up with that triple defender squad. Although I did really enjoy playing that decimator. That was fun. And I think, honestly, against a twin laser turret / ion cannon, anything that does a maximum of 1 point of damage, they are going to run up against a real challenge when they're trying to take down a ghost or a decimator or something with 16 points.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's too much to chew through.
I mean, it was just, he hammered and hammered and hammered, and I still had 7 points left at the end of the game on that thing. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you can only grind so much with it.
Okay, guys, thanks for the report on X-Wing this month, and I'd like to thank all our listeners for tuning in yet again to another action-packed episode of the Geeks Boutique podcast. As always, please head to the Facebook page and give us a like and follow us, and check out all the events around town. We post things for events like X-Wing or Dungeons & Dragons. You can get involved here locally. And give us a like on iTunes and give us a review. Let us know you're out there. Let us know what you think. If you want to put forth a topic that you want us to tackle on the show, write us at our email address, geeksboutiquelex@gmail.com, or just use the Facebook page to send us a message on there. Any way works. We'll see it, we'll get it, and we'll let you know we received it and if you're going to be featured on the show. So thanks again for listening this month, and I'll see you next month.
So the Zachism for this episode is when things are going pretty well, and at least as you would hope, we're shitting in the high grass now, boys.
All music for the Geeks Boutique podcast is performed, recorded, and owned by Kung Fu Lips and the Critical Hits. For booking information, please message us on our Facebook page at Geeks Boutique Lex.